Hi everyone, welcome to Monday Pilates class. I hope you all had a great weekend and are ready to get your week to a great start with this Pilates. Okay, so today we are going to be doing some really lovely standing work to challenge our balance and our alignment before coming down into all fours. And then we're going to end up on our sides doing some lovely oysters and floating oysters, as well as some gorgeous chest and rib cage opening, and then ending it on our back for some really deep core work. So equipment wise, we're going to need our mats, some cushions to support your head, both when you're lying on the floor, on your back and on your side. So if you have a couple of different thicknesses, that would be great. If you need some support for your wrists or for your knees, we're in 4-point kneeling, like a folded blanket or a jumper, have that to hand as well. And if you want to, you can get your hand weights to add in a little bit of extra challenge to some of these exercises. As ever, please listen to your body and don't do anything that doesn't feel right for you. Don't try to work through any pain. And I'm going to try and give you adaptations throughout the class so that you can really choose which level suits you best. And remember, it might be completely different from last week. It might be different from 2 weeks ago. Your body does change every day, depending on how you feel, how tired you are, what you've been doing over the weekend. That may change it as well. Okay, so we are going to stand in our standing correctly position to start with. So feet go in a hip distance apart and just balance yourself down so you've got your weight going down evenly through your left foot and your right foot. And you can do a few sways from side to side here just to feel the weight transferring all the way through your feet. Good. Okay, let's bring our awareness up to our hips and make sure that they're centered. Neither your left hip or your right hip is further forward. You're just balanced over your heels. Tummy muscles coming in, rib cage tucked under, not a flaring part, and arms hanging nice and heavy, shoulders relaxed. Piece of thread coming up through the crown of your head to start with. So we're just balanced here. And then we're going to bring our feet closer together. So today we're going to start in Pilates stance. So feet coming together, still anchored centrally. And then let's take our toes out to about 30 degrees. So heels remain together. Toes are out, standing nice and tall here, and automatically, hopefully, you should feel your glute muscles switch on and your tummy muscles coming in already. So we're challenging our balance even just by standing here. Just going to take a few looks from side to side, so rotating through our neck. So turning from right to left, just swiveling your neck on top of your shoulders, getting some gorgeous movement and strength down the sides of your neck. Don't worry about the breathing just yet. Just turn as much as you can. Try to make it smooth. Make sure that nothing else in your body is moving. You're just slowly turning your head on top of your neck. So looking from side to side, back through to center. And then let's go into a chin tuck and look up. So tucking your chin under, feel those tendons along the back of your neck lengthen. And then gently and smoothly look up and back. We're not dropping our head back too much. We're just doing a little drop. And as I look up, I can see that even in 2 days, there are so many cobwebs on the ceiling. I literally don't know where they're coming from. So you know what I'm going to be doing after class? We're going to do a few more of those. Looking from side to side again. And then your final couple of chin tucks here. So looking down and looking back up. I don't know if you heard that, but whenever a member of my family comes in trying to be really discreet, always puts me off. Okay, final couple, and then looking back towards the ceiling, looking back towards the front. Okay, so stay in this Pilates stance, get your glute muscles switched on, standing here nice and tall. We're going to go into a single floating arm, so keep everything completely still, just focusing on the movement of this shoulder. We're going to breathe in and breathe out, raise your arm all the way up, and then reach it down to the side. Let's go on the other side, breathing out, float one arm up and come back down. Now, usually we do this in our standing correctly position with our feet in parallel. So you've got a wider base of support, which makes it easier to balance. And you might feel that in your Pilates stance, it's a lot harder. You kind of want to use your body as a counterbalance. So this already is a great way of turning on this internal corset. So I can feel it. I really want to move my body and wiggle it around. So I'm really having to engage this corset before I move. So breathing out and in. Good. We're going to take it with control. So just feel your shoulder blade working. So you've got your scapula, which is rotating around the back of your rib cage. And then at the very end, the clavicle, which is this bone, starts to rise up. So it's a gorgeous way of getting movement in your shoulders. Really nice if you've been gardening, doing lots of driving, bending over to work, or doing any close work that you do at home. Good. Going again, one more time on each side. And our final one, breathing out and in, and let's try both arms together. You should find this a little bit easier to balance because you've got both arms going up evenly, meaning that you're not taking your center of gravity quite so much to the side. So breathing out, toe muscles coming in, breathing in to come down. Nice. Good. Try to make it smooth as you can. And in. Good. Going again. Breathing out. And in. We're going to do 3 more like this. Reach all the way up. Being careful not to push your hips forward. Okay, it's quite hard to show you in this top actually, because it hides all sins. So you can press it forward, but try to keep your hips centered over your ankles. Breathing out and in. Good. And one more. Breathing out and in. Okay, now we're going to go up onto our toes with this. So let's breathe in and breathe out. Let's float up. Keep your heels together if you can. And just rise up onto your tiptoes. Press your heels together, and that's going to help you maintain that control. And sink back down. So as you rise up, you might feel your glutes will switch on to support you as you rise up. And come back down. We're getting our calves working as well. So this is super for our circulation. And even after just these few floating arms, I can feel that my shoulders and the back of my spine are working. So hopefully you will do as well. Breathing out, core muscles come in. Remember, as you come up, bring your toe button into your spine. Draw your pelvic floor up and in. And we're going to go 2 more times. Breathing out. And in. And one more. Breathing out all the way up. And breathing in to come down. Super good. Give your shoulders a bit of a roll back. And then roll forward, get rid of any tension because we're going to go into a side reach now. So just like with our single floating arms, this is going to take you off balance. So you're going to really have to engage this area. And if you want to, you can just compare it with how you feel in parallel. So you can start in parallel to start with. Remember, we keep everything still until we start to reach that arm up and over. So let's breathe in. Breathe out, float one arm up, lifting up and over. Toe muscles come in and you get that lovely flexion through your spine, opening out the side of your rib cage. So if you suffer from scoliosis, it's going to be feeling really nice right now as you get that distance between each of your ribs. Going over to the side, coming back. We'll do 1 more like this in parallel. So breathing out, arm comes up, then we go up and over. Hips remain balanced over our ankles, standing up tall. Floating down, and one last one, breathing out, up and over, restack, and down. Okay, so now let's go back into our Pilates stance. So our heels come together. Check the angle of your toes. They should be about 30 to 40 degrees. And tummy muscles switched on already. And then we go up and over. You might not be able to go quite so far, but hopefully you should feel this is a lot more intense around your internal corset area. So great for your balance, great for your alignment as well. Getting our spine working on our shoulders as well. Now remember, if you suffer with your shoulder mobility, you don't need to bring your arm all the way up and over. You can just do it to suit you, okay? So even if it's just there, try and lift up and out through your waist and come down. Good. 2 more times to each side. Breathing out. Imagine you have a pane of glass in front of you and one behind you. So we're preventing ourselves from rotating or leaning forward or leaning backwards. And your lower limbs are in concrete, so they can't go out to the side. All the way up and over, restack, and down on our final one. all the way up and down. Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to need to grab our weights. Holding your weights in your hands. This is going to be quite a challenge, actually. Didn't think this through. So we're going to go back into that Pilates stance, holding the weights in your hands. We're just going to hold them by our sides to start with. And we're going to go into something called a plie. So we start with our heels together, and then you sink down an imaginary wall. Let your knees go out over your toes and come back. Keeping our heels down and trying to keep our spine vertical. It's really easy to do this and bend more at the knees if you stick your bottom out backwards, but that's not the move we're trying to do today. We're trying to lower down, so you can imagine you're sliding down a wall. So if you do have a wall handy, like this one, you can do exactly the same down the wall and come back up. So you should really feel it on your quads, on your glutes as well, and as you sink down on your tummy muscles, because you're going to have to switch this on to maintain this neutral spine and pelvis. Okay, so let's do 3 more like this. So we're breathing out to come down and breathing in to come up. Holding the weights or the water bottles, just going to give you a little bit of resistance. Make sure your knees are tracking over your toes. So if you need to glance down just to check, that's fine. And as you stand up, glute muscles switch back on. Breathing out to come down again. In to come up. Okay, so now we're going to add on an arm movement. So as we breathe out to come down, we float our arms up to shoulder height and down. Okay, so it might not feel very challenging, but after we've done 12, you should probably feel this. So working on our shoulder strength now, as well as our core. So let's breathe in, breathe out, and in. And out. We're doing small movement repetitively, training our body to work efficiently and in fantastic alignment. And we're keeping it small so we can really get that control. And sometimes doing smaller and slower is a lot harder than doing uncontrolled movements, but really fast. Breathing out, make sure you're not sticking your bottom out. Keep your gaze going forward and your chin up. I think we're on 6. Breathing out, 7. Keep your shoulders away from your ears, even though you're holding weights. It's really tempting to bring them up. So let's keep them plugged down. Going down again, you might feel that your heart rate is going up now. 9 and 10. Floating your arms up in direct line with your shoulders. And 11. Still bring your toe muscles in, keeping your heels down. And this is our final one. Breathing out and breathing in. Well done. Okay, keeping the weights in your hands. Taking your feet back to hip distance apart. Just going to go into a walking on the spot with a foot peel. So rather than it being really fast, all we're going to do is try to peel your foot off. Keep your toe on the floor. And then as you replace it down, you're going to float upon the other foot. So trying to get as much movement through your foot as you can. Keep your gaze going forward and think about having an imaginary spirit level across your hips, and that would stay completely still. So knee goes forward, core muscles come in. Remember, they're not only supporting your spine, but they're also helping control your hips. Good. And lengthen up towards the ceiling as you come up. So rather than thinking that you're sinking down into the floor, try and lift up, and that should give you a little bit more height and space between your vertebrae, as well as activating your core muscles a little bit more. So just try that trick and see if it changes how you feel. You're lifting it towards the ceiling. Shoulders remain plugged down. Super. One more. And bring your heels down. Okay, so actually, you can hold your weights if you want to. It just adds a little bit of extra challenge. It's quite nice. Remember, water bottles are fine. Okay, so we're going to go into full walking on the spot now. And again, we're challenging our balance. So we're just shifting up from that exercise we've just done. So feet back to hip distance apart. We're going to breathe in. As we breathe out, let's peel one foot off. Simultaneously rise the opposite hand as far up as you can. And then bring it down. So if you only want to raise it as high as shoulder height, that is fine. If you want to take it further and take your arm right up, flexing your shoulder right up so that your arm is level with your ear, that's really good as well. Breathing out, tummy muscles coming in and down. Okay, so thinking about what is going on in that supporting foot, you're really trying to make sure, you're trying to make sure you're not clutching at the floor with your toes. So you're keeping that foot active, but not tense. Breathing out and in. Out and in. Good. Remembering to keep our hips level. Try not to hitch your hips up and keep both sides of your waist long. I'm actually walking forward ever so slightly. I don't know if you can tell. I'm going to try walking backwards now. Breathing out, floating those arms up. Keep the other arm down. And down. Super. Okay, 2 more to each side. Remember, switch your toe muscles on. Keep your tailbone nice and long rather than tucking under. So super for our balance, great for our awareness of where we are, great as well for your coordination, and you're getting a bit of resistance, strength training in there as well because you're holding a little bit of a weight. So coming back to stand, we're going to pop our weights down by our side and go into something called a standing single leg stretch. So this is very similar to when we're on the mat, but actually we're going to do it standing, which just challenges your balance a bit more. Now, if you want to, make sure you have a chair or a wall handy, just something that you can touch to give you a little bit of support if you need it. Otherwise, we're going to go back into our standing correctly position. Remember, feet hip distance apart, really lovely and long through your spine. We breathe in. Then as we breathe out, I'd like you to float one leg up, transfer the weight onto the opposite leg, and then use your hands to draw that knee in. Keep your gaze going forward, float down, and again on the other side, drawing that knee in. Okay, so one hand can go on your knee. Whoa, falling over. One hand can go on your knee, and the other hand can come on your shin. I'm finding it hard to balance on that leg. So one hand on your shin, one hand on your knee, drawing it in, okay? So breathing out, bringing that knee in. So using your hands to draw your knee in rather than lift it up, you're just trying to enhance that movement a little bit. So bring it in, come down. You might feel a stretch across the front of your hip as well as you bring that leg in. Wonderful for your balance. Actually surprisingly challenging as well. But you might find that as your hip warms up, you can bring that knee in even further. But one word of warning is that, as well as trying to keep your balance, it's really easy to start hugging your spine over your knee. But what we're trying to do is lengthen our spine up towards the ceiling and bring that knee in towards us rather than our bodies going down. Good, and again, coming up. And if you find that you have different ranges of movement in each hip, that's completely normal as well. Last one here. Really struggling to balance on my right leg today. And bring that leg down and walk through your ankles. Okay, we're going to continue standing up to come into our Pilates lunge back. So if you need to have a rest, you can do so. There is quite a lot of standing up, but hopefully you've got the blood pumping around you enough so you don't feel dizziness. So let's stand back to our feet hip distance apart. Place your hands on your hips. That's just so that we have something to do with our arms, otherwise they can tend to get in the way. So hands on our hips, breathing in. As you breathe out, I'd like you to pick one leg up, step back, hip distance apart, and lower down, okay? So you almost bring that knee to the floor if you can. That front knee is going over your second foot. And you come up, okay? So back heel is up. We sink down, keep your gaze going forward. Make sure you're not leaning forward. Really tempting to lean, but we're going to keep those two muscles coming in and squat. So you should feel glutes switch on. Lovely movement at your knees, ankles, and hips. And remember, you don't need to lunge all the way down. If you have knee issues or if you're not as strong at the moment, you can just do a little pulse, okay? Just suit yourself with the range of movement. Just do what you can. Try to make sure you have great form though, okay? So we're going to do 2 more here. So we're doing 6 on each side. Come up, step back through. Let's go on the other side. We step that leg back. Make sure you go far enough back and try to keep your feet hip distance apart. So you can adjust yourself if necessary. And then we're going to sink back down. That was my knee. And come up. So tummy muscles come on, shoulders remain down, chin up. Super strengthening for your quads and your glutes. Keep your gaze on something in front of you that's not moving. That's really going to help with your balance. And again. Good. And 2 more. Sinking down, back up. Sinking down and back up. Lovely. Walking your feet out here. Let's go one more time each side. We're going to sink down 6. So we're doing 6 little pulses. So breathing in, breathing out. Double check your positioning. Really struggling with balance today. And come up. Remember, you don't need to go all the way down. You can just do a little pulse if you want to. Keep that back heel off the floor. But fully lengthen up towards the ceiling. And check you've got that great alignment of your knees. So if they're coming in or out, try to make sure they're going over your toes. I think this is our last one coming up, breathing out. Keeping your chest nice and wide. Stepping back through. Okay, last time on the other leg, so stepping that back. Keep your front toes released on the floor. And breathe out to pulse down, in to come up. Down and up. Really try and lengthen up towards the ceiling. Keep your spine engaged. Keep your breastbone forward and up. Good. 2 more. And our final one, sinking down and coming up. Pressing your feet back, giving them a little bit of a kick out to release any tension that you're holding there. Awesome. All right, so now we are going to go into a Pilates squat. So really getting your legs working today. So feet ever so slightly closer than hip distance apart. We start in our neutral position. So hopefully you're going to feel something in your legs tomorrow. Remember, we've got this lovely neutral spine and pelvis, so toe muscles coming in. Shoulders melting down. We're going to breathe in, and as we breathe out, let's send our bottom back, knees forward, and we're going to float our arms up to shoulder height. Come down, keep the back of your neck long, breathing in to come down, out to come up. So you can play with the height of your arm raise. If you want to, you can bring it up to shoulders. If you want even more, bring it up so they're nearly at your head, but just see what's right for you today. That's again going to take our center of gravity slightly off. So all of those deep stabilizing muscles are having to work harder. Inhale, bottom going back, knees going forward, toe muscles coming in. Almost feels like you're sticking your bottom up if you don't want to lose that neutral spine and pelvis by tucking your bottom under. And coming up. Nice and controlled. So you can go at your own pace. Just try and time that squat down with the breath in. Breath out to come up. Good. 2 more. And coming up. We've got one final one. Coming down. Coming back up. And walking out through your legs. It always makes me slightly out of breath. And I think it's because as we raise our arms up, our heart has to work harder to get the blood pumping around our raised arms. So it's quite normal to feel a little bit out of breath there. Okay, so now we're going to add in a rotation. So this is really going to help strengthen your spine as well as give it some gorgeous movement and give yourself a little bit of a waist twist as well. So that's going to work the internal and the external obliques. So that's going to be really nice to keep your waist strong. So we start again, feet slightly closer than hip distance apart. Bring your hands together this time and have your thumbs level with your breastbone. Keep your shoulders down and keep your elbows wide. So this stance through our arms is going to help keep this lovely framework here. So we're going to sink down on the in-breath, knees go forward, bottom goes back, and then as we exhale, start to turn to the side, keeping your hips still and rotating through your waist. Back through to center, exhale to go to the other side, turning your head, back to center, press all the way up. Okay, so we're combining that movement with that rotation So it's a lot more difficult for your balance, but actually it should feel really nice on your spine. Let's go down again. Inhaling, bottom going back, knees going forward. Exhale, rotate. Exhale, rotate. And standing all the way back up. Okay, we're going to do 4 more like this. So going in your own time. Checking the positioning of your knees. If you need to, pop a cushion between them to give yourself a little bit of feedback about where you are. And don't worry about how far around you can rotate. Just try and get the form really nice. Remember, really wide open shoulders and chest. Sinking down again, rotating. And back up. So you're pressing through your hands. Lovely frame through your chest. You can rotate to the other side first now. Feel how you're going to have to use your glutes and your tummy muscles to maintain stable hips as you move. 2 more like this. Coming down, rotate. Rotate. And all the way back up. Good. And we have 1 more like this. Sinking down. Rotate to the side and back. Rotate and back. All the way back up. Bring your arms down. Give your shoulders a roll out once again. And coming back to standing in that correct position. I'm going to go into a lovely roll down now to get more mobility through our spine. So we've done lots of our hips, knees and ankles, and now we're going to really get some juicy movement of flexion and extension. So standing once again, feet hip distance apart. We're going to nod our chin, soften our breastbone, and then imagine that you're rolling up and over a big beach ball without your hips going backwards. So again, if you have a wall handy, you can stand nearly touching that wall. And that's going to tell you if you start leaning back, because you literally will not be able to. So let's breathe in and breathe out, nod our chin forward. Keep your feet relaxed on the floor. Engage your tummy muscles to support your spine and let your weight go forward. Hanging your arms nice and heavy. Breathing in at the bottom, and then as you breathe out, engage your tummy muscles. Make sure you're not pushing through your feet. And restack your spine 1 bone at a time. All the way up to the top, shoulders coming down. Okay, so let's go 2 more times like this. So standing nice and tall here. And then we're going to breathe down, rolling down. Imagine tummy button up to spine. That's going to support you. Your hips flex last of all. You've got that lovely flexion through your spine. So you can see I'm hanging here, neck and arms hanging heavy like a rag doll. And then restacking, opening out my hips. And coming up again, 1 bone at a time. Shoulders melting down as you stand up. We're going to do 4 more like this, but just take it slowly because you need to give your blood time to go back up to your head as you come up. So never rush up, always restack 1 bone at a time with your breath. Good. So rolling forward, toe muscles coming in, arms hanging heavy. Even might get a hamstring stretch here as well. Arms like a rag doll as you open out your hips, restack your pelvis, restack 1 bone at a time, and again all the way down. Rolling forward, flexing forward, all the way down. Good, and we're going to do 2 more like this. I can't remember how many we've done, but it feels really nice. Remember, if you need a bit of support, you can place your hands on your thighs. That's just going to help you, give you a bit of confidence about not rolling all the way forward. All the way back up again. Restacking, and this is our final one, rolling down, nodding, toe muscles coming in, supporting through your spine. Hanging long and heavy, and then restacking all the way up to the top. 1 more time, lovely. Okay, so from here we're just going to go 2 final floating arms. to give our shoulders a little bit of movement before we come down onto the mat. So let's breathe in. And as we breathe out, reach your arms out to the side, engage your muscles, and bring your arms up to the top, reaching down. That feels really easy after doing some of those other exercises like the Pilates squats with our floating arms. Bring your arms up and coming back down. Awesome. Okay, so we are already halfway through the class. And for the second half, we're going to come down onto the floor. So have a couple of minutes just to have a drink, have a breath, catch a breath, and we'll get ready for the second part. Remember, if you're starting this as a different section, do a few roll downs, do a few floating arms, do some walking on the spot to warm your body up, ready for movement. Okay, so we are going to be starting in 4-point kneeling. Remember, if you need to have anything underneath you to give you a bit of cushioning, that's fine. So you can roll up a jumper or place a blanket on the floor underneath your knees. And if you need extra support for your wrist, have a little cushion so you can place your fingers over the ends. Make fists with your hands as well, or you can just have lots of space between your fingers, which I always recommend because that's going to help distribute the weight between your hands and your wrists and take the pressure off there a little bit. So setting ourselves up, we have our wrists directly underneath our shoulders and our knees directly underneath our hips, legs behind us, and just make sure that your thigh bone is vertical. Okay, so it's easy to start with your bottom too far back or your bottom too far forward. So we're just trying to get this lovely rectangular shape in our body. We'll do a few little pelvic tilts here to find our neutral spine and pelvis. So from this position, just tuck your bottom under, don't go into full cat, and then stick it out. So you are just rocking your pelvis on top of your thigh bones. So all the way up and sending back. Good. And a few more times, rocking up and back. Good. 2 more times. It should feel really nice just to open out your lumbar spine here. And it's great for your pelvic floor. Even though it doesn't feel like you're doing much, you're actually activating your pelvic floor and contracting it to make it stronger. So from here, we're going to go into our shoulder drops. So we do this pretty much every time just to make sure we've got that right activation through those muscles. So keeping your arms as long as possible, make sure your elbows are facing each other. And then let your breastbone drop down towards the floor and your shoulders pinch together behind your back. And press away. So we're breathing out, sink down, toe muscles remaining on, press back. So you're keeping your spine still. All that is doing, you can't speak, all that is happening is that your shoulder blades are hugging together behind you and then pressing away. So long back of neck. Try not to drop your head down. So your gaze is going directly down between your hands. And a few more. And again, just like when we did our single leg stretch standing, you might find that you have different levels of movement in each side. Okay, going to do 2 more like this, really gently. And our final one, and back up. Okay, so now we're going to go into our leg pull front prep. So I want you to really listen to your bodies. If this is too much for your shoulders, you can do a simple leg slide. So I'll show you this one to start with. Keeping your hips square to the floor. Breathe in and slide one leg back and come back. Actually, now I'll change breathing for you. We're going to do it on the breath out. It's just a bit easier to engage your muscles. So breathe out to slide one leg fully. Try to really extend that leg. Bring it back in. Extend the other leg. Keep your hips square to the floor. Imagine you have a tray of drinks on the back of your pelvis. Come back in. And back in. Super. Sliding. And back in. Good. Tummy muscles working. And again, slide. And back in. And again. So that is our option 1. Option 2, we're going to take the weight onto our toes. So I know some of you have issues with your feet. So see how this goes. Remember, you can just stick with that slide. You get the same movement around your hips and your core. So this time we breathe out, tuck your toes under, breathing out again, slide so you're in a long plank, lots of weight going down through your arms, Breathe in, bring leg one back and leg two. So throughout this, we're trying to keep our pelvis as stable and as still as possible. So breathe out to slide, breathe out to slide on the other side. In and in. Okay, so you can see that I'm not letting my bottom raise up into the air, and I'm not rounding through my shoulders, and I'm not sinking down either. So really strong leg pull front prep plank. Okay, so you're going to do it 2 more times. So really weight bearing for your shoulders. Remember, you can rest at any time if this is too much, and you can change the position of your arms and your hands to protect your wrists. You can even do this with your elbows on the floor, but your bottom will be a little bit higher. Okay, so let's just sit back over our heels. Give ourselves a bit of a rest here. Roll your wrists around. And we're going to go into our leg pull front prep proper now. So now we've done the plank, we can do the prep. Now I'll show you again, if you're not taking the weight onto your toes, you have an alternative. Again, we're in 4-point kneeling. This time we're going to just hug one knee in towards us and try to bring your nose down to your knee. So you're flexing slightly through your spine, nose to knee and back. So this is option 1. So you're still activating your lower abdominal area, but it's a lot less intense on your shoulders. So one more time, I'll show you knee to nose and flex, and one more, knee to nose and flex. Okay, so that is your option 1. Option 2, try to make sure you stay in your neutral pelvis and spine. This time we breathe out and out to plank, and then hinge, 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 back and back. Okay, so all we're doing is rocking forwards and backwards, but keeping the movement small and precise. So we're getting flexion and extension of our wrists and of our ankles and our toes. So you can see if you have foot problems, this probably isn't the best exercise, in which case do the adaptation. So breathing out to slide, in, out, and out. All the time you're supporting your spine with your core muscles. So think about bringing those toe muscles in. If you don't, you're just going to slump down through your spine and risk straining the muscles around it as well. Okay, we're going to do 2 more like this. So personally, I think the worst bit of this exercise, the hardest bit, is bringing my knees back in underneath me. Hinge, 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 back, and our final one. Breathing out. Remember that tray of drinks on the back of your pelvis. Hinge, hinge, hinge. Stepping back in, and sit back over your heels. Rest your arms down and relax here. Super. Okay, so we're going to go back into 4-point kneeling to do a lateral arm raise. So lateral arm raise, I like to have your weights handy. If you don't have your weights, you can have your band instead. Oh, I meant to show you another option for leg pull front prep. If you wanted to do this again and make it harder, you can do exactly the same with one leg in the air. So I'll just show you quickly. We go back, and then instead of hinging just here, you float one leg up, hinge, 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 bring that leg down, float the other leg up to shoulder, hip height, and down. So you do it 2 times on each leg. And you should really feel the difference. Your hip really has to work to support you here. It's just a nice adaptation to make it slightly more challenging if you wish. So back into those lateral arm raises. If you don't have weights, you can use a band instead. So you trap the bands between your hands, beneath your hands even, but hold one end really, really firmly. Then as we breathe out and maintain our 4-point kneeling position, we float one arm up to shoulder height and lower down. So you're doing a 90-degree angle to your body, and that band is going to give you a little bit more resistance. Exactly the same if you're using a weight. So you're just lifting up and do your best to keep your body square to the floor. You should find that those muscles around your middle, really deep inside, work hard to help you remain in this lovely neutral position. So breathing out, going to do 6 times on each side. Try not to raise your shoulder up. So think about keeping your shoulders square rather than flaring up and rotating through your spine. Breathing out and in. Out and in. Good. And one more. Out and in. And then we're going to swap over and do the other side. Remember, if you use a band, just swap the band over. If you're using your weight, swap the weight over. And we lift up and down. Remember as well, as ever, one side might be stronger than the other. Okay, so we're keeping our bodies completely still. Keep the back of your neck long. We're going to have a bit of a rest for our arms after this because I can feel it a lot. And one more. Bring that weight down. Sit back over your heels. Rest your arms forward if you can, or if this isn't comfortable for you, you can always go onto your side and do a shell stretch. Just choose whatever suits you best. Okay, so rocking your wrists out. Actually, we're going to stay here and just do a really nice cat while we're here, because we can. Hopefully your wrists are still up to it. We're going to do it with a band. So this is just going to give you a little bit of feedback about where you're on space and help you get that spinal articulation a little bit more smooth. So let's bring that band around the back of our spine and bring it underneath your armpits. And then on your front, trap the band beneath your hands. So you should feel the band is trying to pull you down towards the mat. And even in this position, you're having to work hard to make sure you don't collapse here. So find that neutral spine and pelvis to start with. Remember to have lots of space between your fingers, or you can create those wrists. But remember all those points about 4-point kneeling, knees directly underneath your hips, the thigh bones vertical, and your neutral spine and pelvis. So from here, we're going to go into our cat. So let's breathe in. As you breathe out, tuck your tailbone underneath you, really tucking as much as you can. And then let that ripple continue up through the spine and press into your band. So really try and lengthen up through the band and then extend away. So it's quite important to keep that band as wide as you can. Otherwise, it's just going to cut into you. Mine is just rolled up, so I can already feel it's not working quite so well. So if you need to adjust, you can do so. So having the band there is going to help you work against gravity, because you can really feel that point at which you're trying to get that lovely flexion. Let's go again, breathing out to roll, mid-spine going towards the ceiling. Inhale to return. Good, going again, rolling all the way under. Mid-spine going up, head coming down last of all. Extending back. Super, let's do 3 more like this. Rolling. Hopefully it feels really nice just to have that extra little bit of feedback. Just changes the dynamic of the exercise a little bit. Good, and 1 more like this, rolling underneath. Pressing away and sitting all the way back. Let's get rid of our band and go into one final exercise on our hands and knees. We're going to go into our oblique cats. So this time, hands directly underneath your shoulders, and take your right hand and place it in front of your left. And we're going to do our cat here. So you've got 4 points into 3, and you're going to get a really lovely stretch down the side of your body and really open out your rib cage as well. So breathing in, breathing out, tuck your pelvis underneath you and roll all the way up, head coming down, feel that subtle stretch and extend back. Rolling underneath you, mid-spine going towards the ceiling, extending back, super, going again, rolling and extend, and 2 more on this side. So try to make it super smooth. Enjoy how this feels. Think about the side of your waist just opening out, and we have 1 more here, rolling all the way underneath you, extending back. Place your hands back to their start position and then take the other hand in front now. I'm going to do exactly the same here. So again, you might feel that one side is slightly different from the other. Do your best to keep your elbows pointing inwards rather than rolling forwards. Super. And 3 more like this, rolling underneath you. Good. And this is our last one, rolling underneath. Pressing your mid-spine up to the ceiling. Coming back. Hands go back underneath your shoulders, sitting back over your heels, reaching your arms forward and resting here. Super. Okay, coming up to sitting where we're going to come onto our sides. So bring yourself around. And we're going to do our side lift on our elbow. So you have 2 options. The first one, you can do it with an oyster leg. So we have our feet and our knees together. Hips balanced one on top of the other. So your top hip isn't leaning back. You're not rolling forward. Hips remaining on top, heels together, and elbow directly underneath your shoulders. So you're really quite open through the front of your chest. Place that top hand on your hip, breathe in. As you breathe out, just try and lift that hip up towards the ceiling. So you're breathing out, lifting up, and down. So keep your gaze going forward. Don't be tempted to look down to see what's going on. Lift up and down. So your head is remaining in line with your spine. You should feel these muscles around here contract. So tummy muscles coming in as you lift. So again, great for your shoulder strength, but also we're working around this area to give you that lift. 3 more on this side. Keeping your shoulders away from your ears. Breathing out and in. Good. 1 more like this. Breathing out and in. Super. Okay, so now we can change the position of our legs and see how you get on like this. So we're maintaining that elbow underneath our shoulder, but then crossing our legs over. Okay, so that top foot is hooked in front of that top ankle. Elbow still underneath your shoulder. Hand on that top hip. Chest nice and open. Breathing in, breathing out. Bring your legs together and lower down. Okay, so this time you can really just squeeze your inner thighs, feel your glutes switch on, and lift your hips at the same time as your tummy muscles come in. Quite simple, really. Just try and get up there. Okay, so breathing out, breathing in. Super. So remember, you can have a rest if this is too much for your shoulder. Take it at your own pace. You don't need to do each and every exercise. And down. We've got 2 more on this side. Breathing out. And in. Lovely. And our final one. Breathing out to float up. And in to come down. Good. Okay, so let's get our cushions now. And set yourself up for a proper oyster. So we have our long arm along the floor, if you can. If that's not comfortable, you can have your arm out in front of you and prop your head up with cushions. Otherwise, long arm on the floor, palm facing up if that's comfortable for you. Knees and feet together, hips in line with your feet. I'd like you to place that top hand on your hip once again. That's just going to help you prevent rolling forward through that top shoulder. So your hip is nice and balanced. Your shoulder is back, shoulder away from your ears. Breathing in here as you breathe out. Lift that top knee up as far as you can without rocking your pelvis backwards. So that top hand is going to help you feel where you are in space as well. Glute muscles switching on. Breathing out. And in. Bring those toe muscles in at all times. And again, breathing out and in. Super. And in. Good. 3 more like this. Now we're going to turn this into a lovely floating oyster. Good. And this is the last one. Bring that leg up and down. Good. Hopefully you felt something going on with your glutes and your legs. Now we're going to go into our floating oyster. So I'd like you to bring your heels off, but keep that lower leg on the floor. So you've just rotated slightly here. Keep your hands on your hip. And then we're going to do exactly the same here. Okay. Toe muscles coming in, breathing out to float up. In to come down. Okay, so you should feel that your leg is having to work a lot harder because you're floating in the air. Good. Again, make sure you're not letting that top hip roll forward or back. This is actually quite achy. Super for your hip strength, super for your pelvic floor. Getting those legs working if we haven't done enough already. And lower those legs down. And bring that knee in. Give it a little bit of a rub if you need to. Then get rid of your cushion. And instead clasp your head in your hands. So your elbows are almost together. Still in those oyster legs. I'm going to go into our butterfly. So what we're going to do is keep your lower elbow on the floor. As you breathe out, start turning your head and lifting up that top elbow and rotating back, but keeping your hips facing forward. So you're opening out through your rib cage. So we're going to go again, breathing out, rotate, in to come down. Breathing out, rotate, opening out through your rib cage, in to come down. Super. So this should feel really gorgeous around the back of your rib cage. It's quite hard to get rotation here, but this exercise is really going to help that sequential movement. And our last one here, opening out and coming back. Good. Okay, so pressing yourself up, we're going to come and do exactly the same on the other side. So we're going to start with that elbow side lift with our oyster legs. So our elbow is directly underneath our shoulders, hips and heels in one line, and our hips balanced one on top of the other, so you're really open through there. Shoulders nice and wide, shoulders away from ears, top hands on that top hip. We're going to go into 6 lift and lowers. Again, remember you can rest at any time. If this is too much for your shoulders, don't worry, just do what you can. So you're going to breathe in, breathe out, float up and down. Good, nice and easy. Super way to build strength on our sides, and also we're engaging all these muscles because to lift your spine up in one long line requires a lot of strength. And again, breathing out to float, in to come down, out to float, in to come down. We have 2 more like this. Breathing out and in, and our final one, breathing out and in. Well done. Okay, so if you want to, we can ramp this up to try it with a different foot position. So still have that elbow underneath your shoulder, hand on the floor. And this time place that top foot in front of the other foot, hand again on your hip. So you're really open through the front of your body. Shoulders away from your ears once again. Remember, you're trying to keep your head and your spine in one long line. So you're breathing in, breathing out, float, bring your legs together. This is a lot harder on this side for me. So just adjust your legs if you need to. Just sometimes it takes a little bit of time to find the position that works for you. It really does depend on the length of your body and your legs as well. So what works for me will not work for you and will not work for somebody else. Okay, so everyone's different. So breathing in, breathing out to float, in to come down, in to come down. Good, we've got 3 more like this. Again, you can go back down into your side elbow lift instead if you prefer. And down, and our final one, this is really hard work, all the way up and down. Wonderful. Okay, just getting my shoulder a little bit of a rest here. I always feel that my right side is so much stronger than the other one, which I really need to correct. Okay, so we're going to go into those oysters now. So remember, bottom arm long on the floor, pad underneath. So you're supporting your head in line with your spine, heels at hip height, hip level, and knees are together. Tummy muscles coming in, lifting yourself up off the floor and hand on that hip. I'm going to do 6 normal oysters. So breathe in here, keep your shoulder away from your ear. Breathing out, float that leg up as far as you can without letting your pelvis rock backwards. Breathing out and in, out and in. Good. Super. Remember to keep that core connection here so you're supporting your spine with your muscles. And we have 1 more. Okay, time to go into that really exciting floating oyster. So keeping that bottom leg on the floor, just lifting your heels up. So you're floating And then going into exactly the same, lift and lower. Breathing out and in. Keep that top shoulder away from your ear. It's really tempting to start crunching it up. Super. Good. And 2 more. Breathing out and in and out and in. Bring that leg down and give it a little bit of a rock and a rub if you need help with that. And then we're going to get rid of that cushion and go into our butterfly. So knees back to our oyster position. Clasp your hands behind your head. Bring your elbows together. As you breathe out, let's start lifting at that top elbow and rotating backwards. So getting that gorgeous opening across the front of your rib cage and rotating through that area of the spine as well. So keep that lower elbow down, just rotating back, keep your hips facing forward and down. Super. Let's go a few more times here. Lovely. Okay. 2 more times like this. And slowly with control doing our final one, opening out and back in. Well done. Okay, so we're going to finish on our backs now. So get your little cushion and place it underneath your head. And we're going to find our relaxation position. So lying on the floor with your head and your rib cage and your pelvis in one long line, feet and knees on the floor. And find your neutral spine and pelvis by doing a few little pelvic tilts backwards and forwards. So imprinting your spine and arching away. Good. Okay, so setting yourself up in neutral, knees and feet hip distance apart. We'll go into a quick starfish. So we breathe in. Breathe out, start sliding opposite arm and leg away from you, keeping your heel on the floor and reaching through your fingers. And then as you draw them back in, reach the other arms and legs out. Okay, so inhale here. Breathe out to swap. Keep your toe muscles switched on. That's going to support your torso. Keep both sides of your waist long. And again. Breathing out. Super. And again, toe muscles coming on. Breathing out. So make sure that you're stretching opposite arm and leg away. It's easy to get out of coordination here. 2 more. Sliding away. Actually quite tricky to do it fast. And our final one. And come back in. Okay, so still a neutral spine and pelvis. Bring your legs up one at a time into your double knee fold and then connect your heels together and reach your arms out so that they are either side of your knees. We're going to go into our double leg stretch legs. So as you breathe in this time, lengthen your legs away from you and then bring them back in, okay? So you're lengthening, squeezing your inner thighs in, draw them back in. So you should feel those lower abs really working. Now, the lower your legs go, the more challenging this exercise is. And we're trying to maintain that neutral spine and pelvis. So you shouldn't be rocking and imprinting your spine, and you shouldn't be arching away from the floor. This should be a really stable, steady torso. So inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Super. 3 to go. Good. You're keeping your arms extended at all times. Last one. Bring your knees in. Give yourself a bit of a hug. If you wanted to do that again with a bit more challenge, you can do this with your band around your feet. So we'll try that. So get your band, place it around your feet, and set yourself up in that double knee fold. Hands holding the band. Then as you breathe out, you're going to press that band away and resist the band as it tries to pull your knees back in towards your body. So you're stretching away, bringing back in. Lovely. Let's do 4 more like this. Good. Really feeling that strength across your body. Keep your shoulders down and your jaw relaxed. Remember to breathe and out. Good. 2 more like this. Pressing against the band. The final one, pressing away and coming back in. Take your band down by your sides. I'm going to go back into that double knee fold. Then we're going to do a little bit of a leg opening and bring back in. So it's quite complicated. So you can take your hands down on the floor now. Double knee fold to start, neutral spine and pelvis. As we breathe in, we straighten our legs away. As we breathe out, we open our legs, bring them back, come back in. Okay, so we inhale, exhale, and inhale. Inhale to straighten, exhale to open, inhale to come back. So again, all that control is in your hips, your spine, and your core. Knees go to hip distance apart as you bring them back in towards your body. And if you want to make this slightly more controlled and challenging, bring yourself into your curl up and do the same here. Good. Last one, lengthening away, opening, bringing back in, and rest yourself down. Then we've got one final exercise today, so get rid of your cushion. Go back into your double knee fold, hips, hip distance, knees hip distance apart, heels together, curling up to prepare. Then as we breathe out, we're going to rotate to the side, to the opposite knee, lengthen the opposite leg away. Inhale back to center. Exhale to twist. Inhale to center. So really bring those toe muscles in and down as you move. Good. 2 more times to each side, keeping it controlled, fully extending through that leg, keeping your head heavy in your hands to protect your neck. And our last one on each side, getting all that movement and rotation in your spine. Bring your head down, hugging your knees in, and circling them around if you need a little bit of a rest. Rocking from side to side. Come over onto your sides and press yourselves up to sitting. Find a really comfortable seated position for you. Set yourself down, bring your toe muscles in, piece of thread, pulling the crown of your head up towards the ceiling, arms out to the side, breathing in, breathing out, reaching all the way up, pressing the air away, and giving yourself one more big breath. Reaching all the way up, and pressing the air away, and giving yourself a clap. Well done. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the class and found it a bit different and a bit challenging as well. I'd love to hear how you got on. And remember, if you have any questions about any of the exercises, you can always contact me. So hopefully see you soon. Take care and have a good week. Bye-bye.